this is one of those instances. We are drilling holes. We are removing spot welds. Sometimes you have to modify your car to modify your car. Hey guys, welcome back to HRG TV. My name is Ben, and today we have a 2025 Bronco Sport, but not just any Bronco Sport. This is the Badlands Sasquatch version, basically the ultimate off-road Bronco Sport that you could possibly get right now today. And arguably, people will fight me in the comments, but arguably, I think this is the best off-road crossover money can buy right now. So I'm very excited about this video. This is a 2025, so it's gonna be a little bit different from the older video where we did this same lift kit, but obviously, as you guys know, these all have the same problem. They set too low, and we're gonna fix that today with a 2.5-inch lift kit from my company, HRG Off-Road. So go to our website, hrgoffroad.com, and check that out. We also have 1.5-inch lift kits. We have bumper light brackets now for these with several different light options. We have the ditch light brackets that you guys are probably familiar with. We now have MOLLE storage panels for these for the rear windows. We also have underbody armor, which basically is a mid-skid plate that covers up all the stuff underneath the bottom of your Bronco Sport to keep it from getting messed up when you do crazy stuff like I do off-road. So with all that said, I think we just got to get right into it. So for the 2.5-inch lift kit install, it actually begins with removing the battery. This job is going to be a little bit easier than the older ones. They have changed the airbox position. Normally it was over here, but now it's right there. So open area right here, a little easier to work on. But basically we've got to access these transmission bolts underneath here, so we're going to take this out. Now, this guy has had an installation on these lights done, and they did not tighten. This is a clamp bolt, it wasn't tight. I noticed that earlier, so. Man, that is surprisingly difficult. There we go. This guy's always in the shot.
Always in the shot.
Oh, those are for Thomas.
Oh.
Thanks for the thought,
Disregard.
though.
Never mind.
Just pull it loose. There we go. Okay. Put that somewhere safe. Okay. You use your old finger pliers to squeeze that and release it. There you go. So that piece right there, basically just squeezing it in and then pop it up. Be careful not to break that because obviously it's all plastic. Potential point of failure in the future right here. I hate plastic in cooling systems, but it is what it is. Ford knows more than me, I'm sure.
Saved a little bit of money by doing that.
They did. They saved 18 cents per vehicle by not making that out of something sturdy. Okay, these 4 are going to come out, and we're going to replace them with 4 longer bolts. I'm not going to take all of them out. We don't want everything to fall. Take 3. And obviously these are longer, so they're not going to go in all the way. Basically just putting these in so that it doesn't fall. And now when I loosen this up, it is going to drop some, but obviously it's only going to drop about 1/2 inch because those bolts are going to hold the weight. So we got that secured. Gonna move over to the other side. Actually, you don't have to take these all the way off. I'm just gonna loosen these a little bit. Basically, you wanna leave the one tight. Oh, it didn't hit the ground. Comment down below if you have one of these and the sockets constantly fall off. In this case, it's created extra work for us to do. It is important that you put the correct bolts in right here. There's a lot of bolts that come with this kit. They're easy to get mixed up if you don't know what you're looking at. So every one of our kits comes with one of these rulers so that you can measure the bolts that you have. This is an M12 by 80. This is a metric, well, it's a standard on one side, metric on the other, but these are an 80 millimeter bolt, and that is the ones that you want to drop in right here. This is the only time I've ever used a 16 millimeter socket is on these particular bolts right here. So make sure you have a 16 in your set. Going up. All right, take the skid plate off. Ow, those are hot. Hey, there's my socket. So every time you got to get your oil changed, all of these bolts have to come out. Kind of crazy. I imagine lube techs absolutely hate these things. Comment down below if you're a lube tech and absolutely hate skid plates. I imagine you would, unless they pay extra. Do they pay extra for skid plate removal? I don't know. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can lower it back down. We'll put a support underneath this engine block and then remove that last stud. Okay, let's do it.
3 days later.
Anything interesting happened while I was gone? I said, anything interesting happened when I was gone?
No.
Okay. We can go ahead and drop it off the jack. Whoa, that wasn't attached. Lucky I didn't hit myself in the face with it. Okay. Back up we go. We gotta take the wheels off. It was like clear up there to get a ladder. I'd have to get on a ladder to pick up a dime anyway. It's a short joke. Ooh, these are light. Whoa, I got my kneecap. That was ill-conceived. We are gonna start back here. Okay, now this is pretty much the same concept in all these videos. If you've watched any of the videos previous to this, you know that basically the way I like to do it is I only replace one bolt at a time in the subframe. That way you don't have to mess with trying to put jacks under it and all that stuff. It just gets in the way, in my opinion, and adds time to a job that already takes a long time. So you can do this however you feel is best for you. But again, personally, I don't bother with a support jack because it's not really necessary. And that is my opinion. Basically, this is a main subframe bolt. These are the big dogs right here. There's two of them. Whoops, hang on. This little thing's got to come out. Of course. Now, another thing worth mentioning, if you're doing this lift kit and you think there is maybe a possibility in the future you would ever want to take the lift kit off, Make sure you save these bolts. Better yet, label them, because two things. One, these bolts are hard to find, and two, they're very expensive to replace. It's a very specific kind of bolt. These are 10.9s. The ones that we actually use for this kit, we had specifically made for us. This is also an automotive grade 10.9 bolt. And as you can see, it's got our HRG logo right on the top, which I think is pretty rad. You know, keep that in mind, I don't know. But do it in the right order, not like me. It's definitely a do as I say, not as I do situation, because I forgot to take that screw out. We're not going to bother putting these in right now because these bolts have got to come back out later on anyway when we go ahead and put our spacers in. So for now, we're going to leave them off and just put these in. Probably be a little easier with a helper. Back in just a little bit. Last two bolts holding the subframe on right here. Take those out. There's your longer bolts. So these are going to come out again as well. Part of the reason is because we have to install these ABS brackets. And basically those just relocate this wire. So as you can see, Ford in their infinite wisdom decided to run the ABS wire within 1/4 of an inch of a suspension part that moves. Why? You tell me and then we'll both know. Why does it always do that? All right, now that we've got all the new bolts in, we're going to go ahead and install the spacers. So we'll go ahead and lower this down. This pry bar is just not going to do. There we go. Let's just drop this in right there like that. See if I picked up the right one. Hell no.
50-50 chance.
50-50.
Got it wrong.
Wow. Always lose that bet. These are an M10, 1 inch by 1 inch M10 spacer, and these are an M10 by 50. So those are going to go in right there. One of these holes. Last one. Battery's dead. Got another question for those of you watching. What is the deal with people preferring to use a manual ratchet rather than an impact or an electric ratchet? Comment down below if you're one of those that like doing it this way. Maybe just get that arm workout. Not really sure. Personally, I prefer a power tool. No, that's just me. Okay. Okay, I think that'll do. Now we're going to do two things on this one. We're going to go ahead and put our aluminum spacer in, and we're going to put our brake line bracket in. So one of these and one of these. Now, I know everybody asks this, but left side is driver's side, left, right, as if you're sitting in the car, not facing the car. So this L goes on the driver's side, and it has to go on a certain way, and you would think it would be self-explanatory, but again, it's not. We've had people install these upside down and backwards, and when you do that, it hits the axle, and then it causes all kinds of issues with the car. So I'm gonna show you exactly how to put these in so they don't get messed up. All right, so the L, like that, right? And this goes up here, like so, and that goes like that. There you go. Okay. Same thing on the other side. All right. If you look through here, you can basically see it's just a welded nut. And if you look at how long this is compared to that nut, you basically got that much thread going past it. So you don't lose any thread engagement when you reuse these. And that is not my opinion, that is true. You'll see what I mean. Keep an eye on that when it goes in. You'll see. See, we still got a few threads poking through. So as good as it gets. What the heck? Always in the shot. We're filming.
The plates that are on the blazer, those are pilot bottom plates, right?
No, they're tops. Did you need bottoms?
Yeah. We don't need tops. We need
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Hold, please.
2,000 years later.
Okay. I don't even remember where we were. Where were we, Hayden?
I don't know.
Might as well come on in now. What's up?
I was gonna sneak by. I'm just grabbing some of the.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got one more surprise for you. We are torquing today. How about that? Turning over a new freaking leaf, bro. I hope if I turned it on. I don't know how to use these newfangled tools. 110. $110 foot-pounds on these big dogs right here. Okay. 35 on these little guys here. Watch your face. What do you guys think about extra extensions on your torque wrench? Do you believe it messes with the torque rating? Comment down below if you agree or disagree that an extra extension changes the torque value on your torque wrench. I'm interested to know what everyone thinks about that. Seems to be a hotly debated topic. No, okay, the truth is it doesn't matter what extension. You could have a 50-foot long extension on there, the torque is still transferred.
Okay, yeah.
It does, however, reduce the amount of power transferred through an impact gun, but not through a static torque pressure like this. It doesn't change anything. So there's a lot of people somehow still think the earth is flat, even though normal people know better. All right. Make sure you put these little screws in. I'm sure they are very important. A very convoluted way to get this done, but I'm basically using this pry bar to keep that ABS bracket in place while I do my torquing. All right, that's good. Same thing on the other side. Oh, what did I do? Oh no! Oh, it's in Newton meters or something now. What is it doing? Even the power button doesn't work now. What in the fuck just happened, dude? None of the buttons work. Look at this. I pushed this button and now nothing works, dude. I'm gonna take the batteries out. What the hell? Oh, it's back. Look at that. Okay. I'm not used to these newfangled tools. I'm used to just the ugga-dugga method, you know what I mean? That's it. Okay. Everything's in, everything's torqued. Moving on. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, what the hell do you do about the steering column? And that is a very good question. So what happens is there's a double link. You got a universal joint up top and a universal joint at the bottom. And when you move the subframe down, it basically just puts those two universal joints in a different position, but doesn't cause them to bind at all, because there's actually enough play built in to do what we do, and it doesn't affect it one bit. The only thing that does get affected is obviously there's going to be a gap between the seal and the firewall, which we have accounted for. We have a seal that we're going to put in. The knuckle actually comes in contact with the firewall itself, so you have to make a notch for that to clear. But if you're wondering right now, that is how we're going to handle that situation. Basically got to trim the metal around this coupler right here. As you can see, it is making contact now. So I'm going to start by cutting a relief into this padding right here. I really need better scissors for this, but that's all I got. Okay. Now, make some room. There we go. Now you can sort of see a little better what we got to do. So let's tuck that out of the way for now. And really all we got to do is enlarge this hole just a little bit. There's two ways to do it. One is to cut with a body saw, which is what I'm going to do. Another way you could do it is to take like a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver and just pry the metal back. This is really thin right here, this metal. So you could pry it back with a screwdriver and it would work fine that way too. So whichever way works better for you, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it. You know what I need to do is move this so it's not in the way. There we go, that's better. Oh, for goodness sake. You want to make sure that it doesn't touch when you turn the wheel. It looks like we still got a little bit we got to take out right there. So we're close. Oh, the blade's gone. All right, now we can check it again, make sure we're good. I'm gonna probably cut a little more. Just make sure that's good. Doesn't look like we're hitting anymore, but I am gonna take a screwdriver and bend. There's a little tiny bit of metal in the back that I can't reach with my saw. Then I'm gonna take a screwdriver and just kind of bend that out of the way. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do a steering sweep just to make sure we're all set. And it looks like we are. We're a little close right there too, so I might trim that a bit more. But other than that, we're free and clear. Last thing we're gonna do is put in our foam seal, which will take up that gap around the steering column. There we go. All right, the last part of this deal is gonna be the foam seal. This is very important to put in because it helps keep sound out from under the engine bay coming in, and also it's basically a weather seal. So don't forget to put this in. Now, the way I usually do these on most other cars is from the bottom, but everything is so tightly packed under the engine bay of this thing, it is almost impossible to get in there from underneath. So it's actually a little bit easier to do it from up here on the Bronco Sport. So that's what we're gonna do. And basically just want to feed it into that gap between the firewall and the steering column. And then don't cut your fingers if you can help it. But, you know, you just gotta like slowly send it through and into the gap. And then kind of have to center it so that it's not bunched up. You may in fact want to get a file and sort of clean up the edges a little bit before you call it done. But there you go. You basically want to jam it in there. May have to push it in the rest of the way from underneath. You can get your fingers in there. We're gonna lift this back up and see if we can't get this foam seal to fit a little bit better. Yeah, so now basically you're just gonna get the foam seal centered up around the column just like this. All right, we can go ahead and do the transmission side now. We're going to loosen them up little by little until we have an inch of clearance, which we do. So now, all you got to do is take them out one by one, put a spacer in between like that, and then just tighten them back up. It's that easy. Why is that one not going in? Tell me, Hayden, why isn't it going in? Probably because I took too many bolts out at once. You only take one out at a time, and I took two. So now it's misaligned, which is not a big deal. Just got to get the pry bar out. It's a make it fit situation here. There we go. $110 foot-pounds on these as well. Yeah, look at this. I dropped that pry bar on the floor and it just shattered. Harbor Freight, what are you gonna do? All right, for this next part, we're gonna go ahead and put the jack underneath the engine to support the weight. Why isn't that going in? Tell me, Hayden. Explain it. I think these need to be 80. Yep. We're gonna go ahead and put the bash plate back on. And obviously, we've lowered this subframe an inch. So it's not going to fit exactly like it did before, but it will fit. Shouldn't be any issue. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. So what we're gonna do is put these in loosely so that we have room to adjust as needed, right? So put this back up in place. But we're not going to tighten these until we're done. That's the key to making all this work. Basically, just put everything in hand tight, make everything thread in, and then tighten it, versus just tightening everything as you go. Seemed like there was 2 more of these. Are they gone? Great. Oh, there's one. Now, where's the other one of these? That's what we need to know. Stop me if you see it. I'm gonna go ahead and say this would probably be easier with a helper too. I don't think that's the right bolt for that hole. Actually, no, I know it's not. What the fuck, dude? Come on. What the? This is starting to get heavy. All right, just chill out, chill out, chill out. I gotta rest my arms. All right, so this skid plate gets heavy really fast. So what you want to do is don't do like I just did. Drop it on yourself. Put these 2 bolts in the back first. It'll support half the weight. And then basically you can go ahead and like kind of snug them up, right? So then it gives you a little more support. And then that way you can get the rest of them in. All right. All right, now the challenging part is going to be lining up these holes. So we're going to get every bit of slack we can out of those, and then we should theoretically be able to line these up. Now you will not be threading the bolts through this plastic piece anymore. This plastic piece is going to exist up here now. The bolts are just going to go directly through the skid plate and on into it like this. Okay. There you go. How did I do the other one? So close. All right, now, why is this one not lining up? So I think I did something that I told you guys not to do, which was tighten everything before all the bolts were in. That's exactly what I just did. So we're gonna loosen everything back up. All right, so I'll just explain to you what just happened. Basically, this entire skid plate was rotated this way when I tightened it up, and that made all the bolts fit except this one. So now all I have to do is rotate it back straight and it should fit. There we go. Now we're all set. Or not. What the fuck is happening? Okay, now that we've got all the bolts started, now you can tighten everything up. Yeah, right there. There you go. There it is. So the only real concern here is that this panel gap does not line up anymore. And obviously that's because we had to lower the subframe an inch, and all of this is attached to the subframe. You could have a fabrication shop make you a new one of these that meets that metal, or better yet, just have one that covers all of this, because this is still pretty vulnerable. All right, let's put the battery back in. This goes right there. Right? Make sure that's where it goes. Yeah. And I think this just goes, yeah, this goes right on top. Now when I took my Bronco Sport apart doing this same lift kit, the battery had leaked acid and this was all rusty. Everything was rusted out underneath. This looks like a piece of stainless, which I think is new. They must have watched my video. I'm trying to remember the order in which these came apart. Now, clip this back in, right where it was. Ooh, nice. Put this on. Ah, it's not what I was trying to do. It's alive! Not much holding that on, but I guess it's all right. Put that back in. That's the engine and transmission, subframe, everything done. All right, moving on to the strut spacers. Nope, it's an 18. You have to have quite the variety of sockets to do this job. See if I can get this out without having to do it the slow way. No such luck. Dang. All right. Who's coming in? This guy.
Hey, guys! I know you guys aren't doing anything.
No, we're not busy.
I just had a couple of quick questions about some stuff. Do you know if we have all the parts for these? What are we doing?
Losing bolts,
Interesting.
breaking stuff, you know.
Interesting. You gonna get me those Swibber links?
Yeah, I'll get them to you. Sheesh, the nerve of that guy. Always just coming in.
Didn't even close the door.
Sheesh. There we go. If you're one of those people that like doing stuff manually in the slow way, you will love this part because this is consuming a lot of time, which I personally don't like, but that's all right. Can't get that out without turning the wheel. Use your old finger pliers to pull those out. Yeah, there we go. ABS wire. All right, well, we're getting close to being done for the day, I think. We'll probably work till 4:30 and call it a night. All right, and these have to be hammered out because they're splined. So if you were trying to take these out with an impact, good luck, because they're not gonna come out that way. You see that? And we should be able to get these out. There we go. Little wobble stopper links right here. Dude, I think that's it.
Okay.
I think you can cut it off. We don't need to film the other side unless we time lapse it.
The next day.
Continue on by taking off this cowl cover. There's like 6 of these little clips right here. 3 on this side, 3 on that side. Take those off. Be able to lift that up. 10mm screw right here, which I've already taken out. Let's take that off. And then lift this up. And there's another screw right there. Now this customer's had an aftermarket light install done already, so there's a bit of wiring spaghetti that we're going to have to deal with. But we can just move this off to the side for now. This is slightly easier if you have a friend to help you. Someone to sort of grab the strut when it comes out. But these are actually pretty light, so it's not too bad to do by yourself. All right, and then the spacer, this mounts right up on top like so. Bolts that come with the kit. Can I help you, sir?
Your inlays.
Oh, thank you.
Hot and ready.
All right. All right, then you just put it back in. Getting it back in is a little bit tricky because everything seems to be in the way when you're trying to put this back in there. But once you get it past this point, you just kind of maneuver it around like this. Oh, there we go. All right, then we just lift it into place. The L, which is for driver's side, goes right there. Thirty foot-pounds on these. It's only an M8 bolt, so you don't want to go too tight. There we go. All right, you put this back in. There you have it. You push this down, kind of maneuver it into place like that. Basically just push this down until the bolt kind of pops in, right? The bottom one, you basically just push this in like that and get it in there. Now we're going to reroute this ABS wire right here. So that's very important that you get that correct, because if this is routed wrong, it can get bound up and it can damage it. We don't want that. We're going to unmount it from this piece of plastic right here. We won't need that anymore, but you can leave it on there just in case you ever go back to stock. And then we're going to very carefully remove this plastic clip right here. I would advise don't rip this wire out. I've seen other installations where they just basically yank on this wire. All right, so now that you've gotten this all disconnected, you're going to basically just run it behind the hard line through here just like this. And then this rubber clip is going to go into the bracket right here. And then this one is going to go back in the factory location right here. This goes right back where it was. And then you just clip it back in place like that. You can also add a zip tie right here. In fact, I probably will. Well, that's supposed to go there, but Okay. Keep it steady. Okay. Now I know some of you are looking at this and saying this brake line does look too tight, and I agree with you. So what we're gonna do is bend this tab to give it more slack. So grab this with a adjustable wrench, like what I'm doing here, and we're gonna just bend this downward a little bit. You gotta make sure you're conscious of where this is moving to. You don't want it to hit anywhere. But now that we've bent this downward just a little bit, like so, now we've got plenty of slack. Would you not agree? Plenty of slack, yes, okay, good. All right, so now we're gonna install the new sway bar end links, and these are actually shorter than the stock ones. I know to a lot of people doesn't make any sense, because if you're thinking lifted, you would think this should be longer. But the way this works, when you lift, this whole assembly, what was that? Did you forget to change the batteries in the smoke detector? Basically, what happens when you move this down is the entire sway bar end link also moves down, and what can happen is that it will contact this lower control arm, because the stock one is actually too long. So we use a shorter one to prevent that. These sway bar end links are designed to be exactly like OEM Ford links, but just shorter. So we had these custom made for our lift kits. Now, another thing worth mentioning, if you're at this point in the installation and you can't figure out why the sway bar end link doesn't line up, it's because the sway bar is actually locked in on the other side by the other sway bar end link. So I've actually disconnected the other side just so we could show how to do this. Good. That's pretty much it. Moving on to the back. All right, what time is it? Time to quit.
The next day.
All right, it is a new day and we're back at it on the Bronco Sport. Not because it's gonna take you 2 days to do this installation. There's just been a lot going on here at the shop and I haven't been able to stay working on this. So it's actually a pretty easy job, so don't get intimidated. Starting off, take off these big bolts right here. Nope. 18 millimeter. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna thread the new bolts in one at a time so that we keep the subframe supported. We're not gonna put them in all the way. All right, let's move on over to this side. All right, now the subframe is supported and we'll be able to drop it an inch safely by just loosening the bolts a little bit. Normally at this point we'd be installing the pucks that go right here, but unfortunately we don't have any. Like, we are completely out in the whole company right now. So they're making some right now and it won't be done for about 30-45 minutes. So for now we're gonna move on, but we're gonna circle back to this later.
Parts.
Always in the shot.
I know, but this is what you need.
It is what we need. Wow, that was fast.
Well, we had something around.
Parts delivery. All right, thank you, thank you. Yeah, oof, about lost one of them.
Really quick.
Yes.
I know you're not busy or
No, we're not busy. We're just
So,
filming.
We have Bronco Sport ABS brackets. We're out.
I got a shitload of them cut,
Okay.
like a bunch. We just need to bend them.
Yep. Whenever you're done filming, we're gonna.
Yeah, we need to be done filming right now. We have so much to do.
All right, now we need to speed run this.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install the pucks now. Since we've gotten those bolts in, we're just gonna edit that whole part out. Okay. Just slip it right in, and we're also going to place this big flat washer right here. Go ahead and tighten those up. Pry that down a little bit. Right about there, probably. Right about there looks good to me. Now we can move on to the trailing arms. We'll put one of the new bolts in place of the old bolt. Carefully. These are always a pain to put in because you can't really get your fingers in there. Now, key thing here is to always thread them in by hand before you tighten them up. If you don't, the likelihood of cross-threading increases quite a lot. Get on there. What the fuck, dude? Try a new bolt. Whoa. Dude, what a fail. I don't know. We're gonna have to take it all back apart. We can start over. Fuck! That worked. What the fuck, dude? Tell me this won't fit in there now. Okay. What a pain in the ass. Okay. So it's a little tedious to get these spacers in there. That was terrible. It's just a real hassle. Just can't get your fingers in there. Trying to get the little spacers to go and sit where they need to go is kind of a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie. But it's done. All right, let's move on. All right, you're gonna support the lower control arm with some sort of a screw jack or a floor jack. We're gonna take out these two bolts, one for the shock and one for the wheel hub. Just use your finger wrench on the back side to hold the nut. The key here is to let the spring down carefully and slowly. Don't just undo these bolts and let the spring fly out and hit you in the face. I've seen it happen. There's a lot of pressure on that spring. But just go down slowly, carefully, decompressing the spring just like that. Pressure's off, good to go. There we go. Take the spring out like that, and then grab this isolator right here, and these spacers will fit right in there, just like that. Perfect fit. Okay, and then basically you just put it back in. It really is that easy. Make sure you have it clocked correctly, which means the end of the coil fits into its little slot right there. So just turn it until that fits like it did before, just like that. And then top end first, and then turn it so that the bottom lines up just like that. So before we do all that, we're going to lower it down and we're going to install our shock extension. These are shock extension brackets. They're going to bolt in place where the shocks were. Use some of these. Just like that. Okay. I'm going to get those started. And then these are the bolts that hold the shock. And we're going to bring those in from the back side like this. Okay. I'm going to put those at 55 foot-pounds. There we go, just like that. Basically use your finger wrench on the back. That. There we go. Impact those on. Check these and make sure they're at least 55. Yep. Yep. Quick tip, you will have to impact these tight because there's no way to get a wrench on the backside, but impacting them does the job. So, all right, this is done. This is done. The subframe's done. Trailing arms are done. So from here, we've got a few last little details to take care of. One is going to be this brake line. So it's a little bit trickier than the old ones. The old Bronco Sports came with these brackets right here that would locate down here. You can see then it would relocate this mount to right there. So basically dropping it 2 inches. But they've changed the design, makes that not possible anymore. So thanks to Ford's design change, now we have to drill out spot welds. And this is another one of those times where I have to tell you, sometimes you have to modify your car to modify your car. This is one of those instances. We are drilling holes. We are removing spot welds. If you're not comfortable with doing that, then probably shouldn't be lifting your car. But once you see how this is done, you'll be like, ah, it's not that bad. So we're gonna hit the center of this spot weld right here. Basically get a really sharp drill bit, drill it out. If you have a spot weld bit, that'd be way better. I may have to invest in one, but I don't have one right now. So we're gonna just use this one. Okay, and then we'll use this Christmas tree bit or whatever you have equivalent to that to drill them out the rest of the way. A little bit more. There it is. Okay. We're gonna move this down and out of the way for now. Just like that. And then these we're gonna just go a little bigger. You gotta be very careful not to go too big. There we go. Same thing on this one. There it is. Okay. You are going to need one of these. This is a riv nut installing tool. So if you're familiar, it's a pretty easy process. I think I bought this whole setup on Amazon for like 28 bucks. But basically, you're just going to put it in there and then squeeze the handles like that. And these are M6s, so you got to be somewhat gentle with it. I want to force it. this is the new bracket that I just made on the CAD. So it's basically gonna mount right there. And then this is gonna mount to the bracket. This is basically a bare piece of metal, but the finished product will have the same finish as this. It's gonna be zinc plated. Someone coming in here. That's fine. So this is going to be zinc plated, so it'll be totally fine. But if you do live in a northern climate where you get a lot of salt on the roads, it's probably going to be a really good idea to just blast some undercoat or some kind of rust prevention on this piece. There's your brake line relocation. Oh yeah, we're almost there. About 1/4 of an inch more, and I think we'll be dialed. Okay, now we can go ahead and put the bolt back in for the shock. The hole lined up. There we go. Just got to pry it downward just a little bit. It's like I went too far. There you go. You see how I did that? Basically just use a screwdriver to align the hole. It's just easier way to do it. It's off just a little bit. There it is. See, we got plenty of slack on our brake line. This is full droop right here. Plenty of slack there. Everything looks good. Everything looks tight. All right, last thing we're gonna do is drop the muffler, because now that we've dropped the subframe, this is coming in contact. So we're gonna use a couple of spacers to drop this down. Put your bolt through this little bracket here, and then through this. And we're just gonna bolt this right to that. The freaking neighbors, yo. The freaking neighbors and their freaking Prius. Always making so much noise. I'm over here trying to work. We're trying to film. Can you believe that? Oh my God. There we go. You drop her down, see what she looks like. Okay, one more thing right here. You can see this thing is up really high off the ground. And the main reason for that is because, well, obviously we just lifted it, but also the suspension needs to settle a little bit. All right, this should be good. Basically, that's it for the installation. Look at that wheel well gap. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in the Get Farther Out t-shirts, I promise you they won't be all dirty and sweaty like this one. Go to hrgtvshop.com. You can buy merch on that site. So go check that out. That pretty much wraps it up for this video. I appreciate you guys watching this far. Now, if you're interested in tire sizes, let's take a look at that. Now, the Bronco Sport Badlands does come with a 235/65/17. The most common size everybody does is a 245/65/17, which is totally safe. You can actually do that size without even having a lift kit on here. But my advice would be to go to just a little bit bigger than that, is a 245/70 on a 17-inch wheel. That's like a 30.5, so it's a little bit bigger. And it is pretty much as big as you can go comfortably without doing any modifications. And I'll be honest with you, depending on the brand and style of the tire, it may touch just a tiny bit on the felt. Anything bigger than that, would maybe fit. You'd have to modify the fender liner. So if you're not willing to do that, I would stick to the 245/65 or the 245/70 on the 17-inch wheel. Now, if you have 18-inch wheels, you're going to want to do a 245/60 on an 18-inch wheel, or a 245/65 if you're really pushing it. Now, one last thing that is very, very important, you absolutely have to get a wheel alignment after this lift kit is installed. And yes, you can put the lift kit on and drive down the road all you want, and it will probably drive just fine. But what happens is your tires will wear out really fast and your gas mileage will vastly decrease, and you don't want that. Now, typically with our testing, our Bronco Sport did about 24, 25 miles to the gallon with the 2.5-inch lift and bigger tires. So it's more or less the same as stock. So don't let the gas mileage loss really affect your decision to do the lift, because you're not really paying a price there. The other thing that's important to say is that there is no ride penalty for doing this lift kit, because there is no increase in spring rate, there's no increase or decrease in shock dampening. All that stuff stays the same. The way these lift kits work is it's more or less a giant body lift. So you're not really affecting the ride quality at all with the spacer type lifts that we do. So with all that said, if you're interested in the lift kit in this video, we do have them for sale right now at hrgoffroad.com. We also have bumper light bars in several different flavors for the front skid plate equipped Bronco Sports only. We also have ditch light bracket kits. We also have mid skid plates. We also have under tray skid plates, but only for the Bronco Sports that don't have this factory steel armor on the front bumper. So with all that said, I really appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Obviously today we're going to be doing a lift kit. We're almost got it, dude. I almost did it in one take or one whatever. So has this push bar right here, just in case you need to, you know, I was going to say push through protesters. I can't say that. Lost my train of thought, trailing off. What else do I usually say?